Hi.
Hello.
Oh, it worked. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what else to do.
Right, I know, right?
Oh my God. Okay, so I was doing a kind of like an introduction to tell everybody who we're speaking with today. But yeah, if you want to just introduce yourself quickly to the people watching.
Okay. My name is Chavalia Mwamba, Chavalia Dunlap-Mwamba. If you read any articles about me, you will probably see my hyphenated last name, as if it's not already long enough. I am a self-taught fragrance designer here in Texas. I have been in business since 2005. My specialty is perfumery for both men and women. However, I have added room sprays to the collection, as well as I try to incorporate some holistic aspects with essential oil-based diffuser blends for both your atmosphere or your vehicle, because I realize that people use various things just to scent their vehicle. And I wanted something that would help them to ride in style, so to speak, and have a nice scent to go along with that. The name of my brand is Pink MahogHany. You'll probably also see it coined as PM fragrances. And the name in short just means that the pink is representative of the feminine aspect of perfumery, so the softer side, the more masculine denotes for him and her. So I wanted to incorporate everything about the brand in the name, where there wouldn't be any questions about whether or not my fragrances are for just women or just for men, or if I have everything for both sexes. So
Awesome. That's amazing. So, just like I had mentioned when I sent you the original email, so I wanted to do a short series here on Instagram because my goal is to help millennials and Gen Z, figure out their career path and kind of break generational barriers and traumas that we pack on from generation to generation, and just to do better. So a lot of times a lot of people get confused as what they want to do in their career, and then they go to something mainly because maybe their parent has put that pressure onto them. So I was trying to look for like unique careers that maybe our community don't really go after. And I was trying to look into the perfume industry because I'm like, oh, that would be cool. Like, I don't know a lot of brands, Black-owned brands that are in the perfume industry. And I really wasn't finding anything. And then I landed on the article by Zoe Report. It was the reason why finding a Black-owned perfume brand is so difficult. And that article featured you and then another guy by the name of Chris Collins. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I wanted you to be able to share your story with us, just to show another possibility within your career and stuff like that. So I think what you're doing is super cool.
thank you.
And you're like the first Black woman in Texas, right? That does that has her own perfume brand.
That is correct. That is self-taught. I have to make sure I say that so nobody comes for me.
But
But
that's
yes,
another cool thing too, that it's self-taught, because again, I thought that industry was just kind of like, I don't know, rich white families passing it on from generation to generation.
right.
So I have no clue how you get into this or how you do it. So I'm excited to talk to you to get all this information and all these gems. So first I want to know, what is a perfumer? What, like, in your words, what do you do?
A perfumer, in short, there are two terms. Um, Perfumer and nose are pretty synonymous. So sometimes people use the term nose, and self-explanatory, we use our noses to evaluate different scent profiles. A perfumer is basically an individual who selects different aroma materials from different, what you would call an olfactory profile, which just means it's from different scent categories like citruses, sweet aromas, woodsy aromas. We have what we call a fragrance wheel that actually has different types of scent profiles on there. It's color coded and everything. I don't use mine all the time, but it is available. And it just kind of helps the perfumer to select different ingredients to use and kind of give, in terms of like music, kind of give them a starting point. of the song, so to speak. So if you can kind of see behind me, the perfumer selects different materials to create fragrance, whether it be for detergent, any medium that you can think of that is scented, there is a perfumer behind that particular fragrance. They have help with a chemist in most cases. They have gone to school for a number of years. So my situation is different, but in the traditional sense, they have gone to a perfumery school. Now there are schools in the U.S. When I first began Pink MahogHany, there were none, to my knowledge. If there were, I didn't know about them. So they have gone to school for at least 10 years. They've studied under a master perfumer for a number of years, and then they're usually hired by a fragrance house. They're usually, like you mentioned, they are selected by lineage. So, which means they're pretty much, they do go through the process of going to school, but the school, once they graduate, pretty much know who's going to work at which fragrance house, at least the large ones that we know of, like Chanel, Lancome, Lanvin, all of the Jimmy Choo, all of the fragrances that we wear today. In my case, because I'm self-taught, all of my knowledge has come from reading and research. I did take some online perfumery courses from a school called Perfumer's World. It's actually not necessarily a school. They actually supply perfumers with some of the aroma materials that are behind me. But they do offer online courses, and you do get certificates for that. They used to be complimentary. I believe they still are. But the perfumer basically is the musician. They select the notes that are to be played in the song, and then they evaluate the fragrance over time, and then they create the actual scent for different mediums that we use probably every day, except for people that may not necessarily wear fragrance every day. But in some way, shape, or form, something that we use, whether it is a cleaning spray, a vehicle diffuser, blend, candle, fragrance oil, a perfumer has partnered up usually with the chemist to create that.
Okay, so there's so many different avenues that someone can take. So it's not just creating the bottled perfume when we automatically think of a perfumer. It could be an array of products. So there's so many avenues. Okay, so that's super cool. And then for you, because I read up on you a little bit, so you've always been into scent. So I saw that going outside and like smelling like what's around you and different things like that. So and then I know you were a teacher as well, right? Yes. So is it because you didn't know there was this whole world that you can use your love of scent to create like a career? So that's why you went into teaching, or did you know in the back of your mind, like eventually I'm going to get into like the whole world of perfumes and stuff?
No, it was actually quite the opposite. I had misconceptions that people still have to date of who actually created the fragrances. In my mind, especially as a child, I've always worn some type of scent, whether it was lotion or, when we got a little older, Bath and Body Works and all of that. But I didn't think that there was an actual perfumer, like an individual. In my mind, because it wasn't something that was made known to me, I just assumed that there was a plant, a manufacturing plant, that there is someone that is programming a particular formula into, like a robot or a computer, and then the robot is just pushing out the fragrance. And in some cases that is true, but I completely was oblivious to the fact that there were individuals who actually sat down and evaluated the profile. I don't think I have any blotters. No, I don't have any blotters or tester strips, but they line those tester strips up with different scent profiles and evaluate them over time, whether it's over 24 hours, over a couple of hours, a couple of minutes, and then make notes through each stage of development. And then they create the fragrance based on that. I had no idea. I just knew that I loved fragrance, and when I was younger, I tried to mix some, I think it was some type of hair products. I wanted it to smell a certain way. I think it was some gel or something, and I wanted my gel to be scented. So I'm putting all this stuff in there. So I was trying to mix then, and I was like, okay, there must not be any individuals making this, because I completely am bombing trying to make this concoction, and then it didn't even work on my hair. So, but I really did. I was ignorant to the fact that there were individuals that actually held the title of creating fragrances. I thought that it was just a computer or a machine, and then someone was plugging and playing a formula.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so then how did you transition from your career as a teacher? Because that's like something that you can do up until you retire. Kind of like once you get the job, you're in it and that's it. So how did you discover your new career path? Like, and how were you able to maybe take that leap to do your own thing?
Yeah, it was a slow progression. I knew after my third year of teaching that it was a wrap. I did
Okay.
stay though. I stayed for 5 years the first time. And
Okay.
yeah, I've kind of started and stopped to help out a school here where I am now in Longview, Texas. But I knew after about the third year that this is not for me, but I wanted to at least stay long enough to get my loans forgiven. So I stayed 5 years to have my school loans forgiven. But it was like things just started kind of happening. So just a couple of examples. Before I actually started making anything, while I was teaching, you know, I was a music teacher, elementary music teacher. So I had kindergarten at the time, pre-K through 5th grade. Every 45 minutes, I had a different age group. So during that time, you know, I've seen hundreds of children, because this was a pretty large school. They had 2 different sections. And when the kids would get close to me, they would always tell me how good I smelled, or they would just kind of gravitate towards me. And I'm trying to push them off like flies, but I enjoyed the fact that they that they felt like I smelled good enough to be close to. So I started kind of noticing how important, or really how important scent plays a part in children, and how they really do gravitate towards things that smell good. So in between that time, these things were just kind of happening simultaneously. I'm sorry, it always happens when I'm on live. But I started I started researching first, trying to figure out who makes different fragrances. And I started with my favorite fragrance house, which is Hermes. It's a French-based perfumery house. Very old, has longevity. And I wanted to know about, I realized who their master perfumer was at the time. He's now retired. So I started researching about him. And that kind of led me down a rabbit hole of, wow, there are people behind these fragrances. And then I started researching about just different fragrances that I had worn. And I would find a little bit of information about the actual perfumer, and that kind of led me to wanting to research about ingredients. So long story short, I started researching ingredients, found one that people were complaining about, because during this time of me teaching, you know, you have staff development, you have all kinds of meetings all the time. They should have just called teachers meters, because that's basically what we did, was meet all the time. So in these meetings, whether they were on campus or off campus, fragrance would always come up in conversation. And I found that to be quite interesting. And there would always be one person, no matter how large or small the group was, one person would always say, well, I love fragrance, or I used to love fragrance, but I can't wear it. It makes my head hurt, or it's too strong. There was always some type of negative comment, or I would say adverse comment, where a person was having a reaction that was less than desirable. So me, as someone that loves fragrance, I'm a why person. I've always been that way. If my mom is on here, yes, I see that she is. She will attest to the fact that I've always been inquisitive. So you don't have to co-sign, Mom, okay? But I've always been a why person. So I started researching in between the time that, like during lunch, you know, teachers only had a 30-minute lunch. I'm researching about perfumery. It just became an obsession almost. And I wanted to know, well, why? Why can't some people wear fragrances? Why would something that is meant to be such an enjoyable experience cause harsh effects? So I started researching fragrances or ingredients in fragrances that cause ABC, headaches, nausea, rashes. It just kind of started there. And one ingredient that kept coming up was One ingredient that kept coming up was phthalates, and it's PHTHALATES. It looks very weird when you read the word. Basically, what a phthalate does is it causes the fragrance to last longer. It acts as a preservative, and you can decrease the expensive materials, add those phthalates in there, and increase the shelf life. Well, that sounds good, but the downside to that is it can cause carcinogenic type effects. And because a lot of the larger brands wanted to make a quick buck, they would use that phthalate to inflate the price and cut the ingredients that they're using, and then still make a very large profit margin. So once I started learning about that, I was like, oh no. I didn't say oh no, but that's what I'm gonna say tonight.
But it went in your head, yeah.
Right. I'm like, oh man, so this could possibly be what's causing these adverse reactions. So when I started buying materials, the first thing that I said was, okay, I may not be able to eliminate this 100%, but I am at least going to pride my brand on not using it in addition. So not purchasing, making conscious efforts not to purchase ingredients that have phthalates added to it. I wanted to challenge myself and use, I do use synthetics, aroma chemicals that are not derived from nature, but I wanted to use those essences and challenge myself to make it still last longer on the skin, but not necessarily have to add anything that's going to cause adverse reactions. So that's pretty much what led to the birth of Pink MahogHany, and researching in between any time that I had at work, any downtime that I had. And then it got so strong that when I would go home, after I would finish my lesson plans, if I had to do lesson plans, I would research again about perfumers and learning about their backstories, which were really hard to find at this time. This was 2008, 2009. So it wasn't a lot of information, but I did come across a website that actually helped me to learn more about perfumers, because they had a section in this website. You know, you can have the fragrance description where you learn about, okay, kind of what does this fragrance smell like, or would I like it? Do the notes sound like something that's interesting? Well, they also had a section where they highlighted the perfumer. So that was right up my alley. So I saved them, I bookmarked them, and that's what led me to want to learn more about the actual perfumer. That actually opened up my knowledge of, wow, there are people. And it also kind of helped me learn about what's now called niche perfumery, which are smaller brands, and they use more expensive materials, so the price points can be a little bit higher. But it just took me down that rabbit hole, and eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to take a leap of faith. And I took this leap of faith several times, so don't get it twisted. It wasn't like I just stopped teaching and Pink MahogHany blew up. There were several jobs after I taught part-time just to allow me some income so that I could support my business. So that's basically, you know, what happened. It was a slow transition. You know, I stopped teaching actually last year and began to pursue Pink MahogHany full time. But this was the second time around. I've taught, actually third. I've taught 3 times in different sectors: public school, private music school, and then public school again. So I did make sure to continue to support Pink MahogHany even while I was teaching. But as it grew, I got so busy that I didn't have time to really push out the orders that I needed to while I was working. Yeah. So I made the hard decision. I'm a mother of twin boys, so I made that tough decision to, you know, rearrange some things, cut back on some things so that I could remain here full time. And that's how it's been for the last year. Mm-hmm.
So you said so much stuff in just that first part, which there's so many things. Like, first, it's crazy because in the beginning, when you were explaining perfumes and you were talking about the notes and relating it to song, mm-hmm. and then you were teaching music as well. So there's so much similarities from what you just said between music and perfume notes, because, you know, you were saying like how the kids would gravitate to that scent, and then it just, sometimes different scents bring up different memories, just like mm-hmm. songs do. Right. So I think that's so cool that you're still kind of doing the same thing, but just in a different way. Right. So you're still creating music, but through perfume. Right. So I think that's super dope. And then another thing too is, yeah, a lot of times people, entrepreneurs, like we see just the big moments. We don't really see behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So that is important that you said, like, it took more than one time for you to take that leap of faith to get your business off the ground, because a lot of times people feel like, okay, yeah, she was a teacher and then stuff started happening, so she just quit her job, and then
Right.
Pink MahogHany was just on its way, which it is, but it took some time, it took some effort. But I want to know, like, where did you get that name for your business and what does it mean?
Pink mahogany, I actually like both colors. I actually like rose gold. So,
Okay.
but I didn't want to call it rose gold and mahogany. So I wanted to keep it short and sweet. But I wanted to infuse the feminine and the masculine aspect to kind of communicate that, okay, well, if it's pink and mahogany, then there must be some aspects of feminine, the feminine side or the softer side. There must be some aspects of the masculine side. So I wanted to kind of put those together to let people know that even though I'm a female perfumer, I don't just cater to one gender. I have fragrances for both men and women, and gender neutral fragrances as well. So that's where the extra H comes from in mahogany, and it's capitalized on purpose. So it's to denote that the fragrances are for both him and her, or her and him, if you want to put the ladies first.
Okay, cool. And then for business wise as well, because you run your own business. So what does a typical work day or maybe a work week, if it's easier to explain, look like for you?
Whew. What I will say is no 2 days are ever the same. However, there are some similar elements that occur every day. I try to have a schedule, at least until I have interns, hopefully this summer. It usually starts with me posting to social media.
Okay.
I don't schedule my posts. However, I usually know what I'm going to post the next day because I try to take pictures just of myself working, because I realize that's an aspect of perfumery that people don't get to see. They just see the nice, pretty bottles or the nice product after everything has been packaged. But what about the process? That's what people really want to see so they can connect with. So that's usually the first thing that I do. Before I even roll out of bed, I'm already on Instagram. I know that's probably not the best thing, but it works for me.
Yeah.
After that, I usually try to devote at least an hour and a half to emails, because they pile up so quickly, especially with the growth that the brand is experiencing. And because I am the administrative assistant to an extent, I do have, I believe she's still on here, my business manager. But the emails pile up so quickly. So I try to devote about an hour and a half to that. Then after email time, after the administrative tasks, I start working on orders. Even if it's not to package it in full, it's at least to get the boxes ready, to put labels on the bottles, to kind of prep everything so that I don't have to do every single thing in one day, because it can be very tiring. That's usually about an hour and a half too. And then after that, I will, now since I have private label clients, I will at least try to revisit any notes that I've taken. And those notes usually kind of tell me where the client is in the process, and just to acclimate myself, because I have about 6 clients now, and I want to make sure that I'm staying on top of what each client needs, because they're all in different variations. You got candles, you got body scrubs, perfumes. So that is usually how I conclude my day. Sometimes, or some days during the week, all I do is formulate. Like I have a candle client now who I actually need to formulate, which means I have to make so many ounces of her fragrance in bulk for her to put in her candles. That usually is one day, because I don't have time to do anything else, because the formulation is, I'm looking at ratios, it's math involved, scaling it up to see how much of which ingredient needs to go in a 32 ounce. That's what I'm looking at right now, 32-ounce bottle. So that part, because I did not like chemistry in high school, I kind of slept through it. So I still do things the manual way, because that's how I learn and retain information. There is an app that I could use, which I'll be getting soon, that will kind of help me plug and play. But I like to challenge myself, because I'm like, okay, if my laptop goes down, I need to be able to manually calculate these ratios or this formula so I can duplicate it. So formulations usually take my whole work day. And I try, because I do have children, I try to only work about 5 hours, unless I really need to push some things out. But I try to distribute it during the week. And I usually take off one day during the week. Most of the time it's to have a long weekend, so either a Friday or a Monday, just to have some clarity and kind of breathe a little bit, especially when I've inhaled a lot of basically chemicals. So I do wear a mask, but most times if I'm making a perfume, I don't wear the mask because it's not as strong, but I do take precautionary measures. So there's a lot that's involved, but in short, that's usually how my work weeks go.
Okay, and you did mention that you're looking to get interns. So for someone that's maybe looking to get into this field, you would recommend maybe trying to look for an internship?
If they are available. In all honesty, I have not necessarily come across many internships. So perhaps that's something that I'm a member of the Fragrance Foundation, and you know, I'm glad to be, because there was you know, just a slight lack of representation with African American perfumers, just simply because there were not, or there are not, very many African American perfumers. So one of the things that I want to shed light on are the disparities. You know, how can we help those that are in high school or even at the middle school level that want to get into fragrance? How can we create internships? Because I don't know that there are many. Like I said, if there are, they're kept very secretive for those that are in the lineage of perfumers from hundreds of years back. They're reserved for them. So I want to open that up for especially people of color to have that opportunity. So that's why I was led to open that up even with my business. You know, it's small, but they can still learn. There's a lot that they could learn, because if I had this opportunity, there's a lot that I would be able to learn, and I'm still learning. And I think it's important that the youth are able to see the challenges. Everything is not rose and glitter. We would like it to be, but if they want to be in business for themselves at some point, or even if they want to see on a smaller scale what that looks like, internships are highly important. So that's one of the things that I would like to do. If there are internships available, I would definitely say go that route. And then once you're in, I do believe that it's pretty easy to grow to an extent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The knowledge is
No,
definitely key. Yeah.
okay, no, that's really good, because I know like a lot of industries have internships. I wasn't sure if in that industry, because like I said, when I was doing research, it was really hard for me to find stuff that was geared towards Black people or Black owned or something. So I think that's incredible. And then would you recommend somebody taking specific courses? Because you did mention like chemistry. So should they have those things in their belt before like maybe trying to start?
Um, that's a hard question, but I would say yes, just because it's always good to have that book knowledge. However, I wouldn't advise them to limit themselves just to the textbook, because in a way it can kind of take away from the creativity. And I do believe that people, you know, have creatives, who are right-brained, definitely need that outlet. And it can kind of be stifled if you're only relying on the books or the text. It's definitely helpful to have that background, but I would say that you should have a nice balance between the two, if that makes sense. But having that knowledge, definitely, I would say the chemistries, if there are fragrance courses, I don't know that there are any at the high school level, even though it's STEAM, but that's also something that I'm working with the organization that I'm a member of to kind of open that up, because it really is it's a closed career field.
And I want to ask too, like, is there any, like, if you came across maybe any groups, like it can even be like Facebook groups or something of people that are into perfumes. Like, have you seen any of those online?
Yes,
Yeah.
there are a couple that I think they've kind of died down a little bit. They were really hot when I first started in perfumery, but they still have content up, which is why I was going to mention it. And one of them is called Base Notes. I can't remember if it's basenotes.net or basenotes.com. But basically what this was a platform where people could ask questions. It was a thread, just a continuous thread. And people would ask questions. You could search how much should I dilute this, or whatever question you can think of related to perfumery, and you can probably still find those answers. There are also, the first group that I can think of on Facebook is called Perfume Making,
Mm-hmm.
and it is closed. However, the owner is usually pretty lenient on letting people in. He just wants to make sure it's not any spammers or anything like that. But those
Okay.
two would probably be the best places to start that I can think of right off the cuff. Or Perfume Making on Facebook, and then Base Notes, which would be BASE notes.com.
Okay, cool. And then in regard to like the groups and stuff and all those things, like what is something that you wish somebody would have told you before you started Pink MahogHany?
I wish they would have told me how expensive this career is, because if you want to have a quality product, you cannot get away with making a quality perfume with fragrance oils and then trying to sell that as a luxury item or as a high quality or premium quality item. I did not realize how expensive it was to begin, especially when you're dealing with what I call mixed media, which is a combination of aroma chemicals from synthetic derivative and things like essential oils, anything that comes from nature. Even in a small quantity, you can be looking at, like 30, $40, especially when you start talking about rose and things that can be a little bit more exotic in nature. So I wish that someone would have told me, yeah, it's going to be expensive, so you might want to stay at your teaching job just another year. Don't quit just yet. So, and especially, when you grow and then you have orders coming in, you still have to be able to meet that supply and demand. So I wish that I would have known, or that someone would have schooled me on the expenses of just bottles, caps, and don't even get into things that are custom. So yeah, that's the main thing is the expense.
No, I think that's good. And then somebody put it, it's basenotes.net. So thank you so
Okay.
much for putting that in the chat, the comments. But yeah, that's so important, because even for me, like there's so many things that I've spent money on that I didn't need to. There's so many things that I should have spent money on that I didn't when I was starting out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these questions are really important, because it's going to help the next person that wants to do the same thing that you're doing or something similar kind of reflect and really plan out and really see what exactly or how much money it takes to really start your business and stuff like that. So that's cool. And then for someone that wants to start out doing what you're doing, like what are maybe the first 3 steps that they should take? Because you gave a lot of information of like there was the websites where you research different perfumers and different notes and things like that. There's the Facebook groups. There's the society that you're a part of. So where should someone start if they're looking to be a perfumer and starting their own business?
Ooh, starting points. Um, I would definitely say just taking things slowly, starting to become acclimated with not necessarily current trends, but different online magazines that are geared towards fragrance. I think that it would be the top starting point, because there is so much information that's jam-packed in, and the subscriptions are free, but a lot of people don't know about it. So, it helps you to stay current on trends, kind of see what's working. You learn about materials. It's kind of like taking a course, as slow or as quickly as you want to, because like I said, these online magazines, or you can get the hard copy version, are very jam-packed with information. I have at least 20 over here that I'm looking at right now that they still have the wrapper on them. I have not gone through them because it's just so much content and so much information. So I would say start there, because that's free. You can take your time, and then, you may get some idea sparks, and then you can kind of start purchasing materials in small quantities from the suppliers that they actually have advertisements in the magazine. So I think that would probably be the first place to start. And I think that probably covers 1, 2, and 3, because it's going to lead you down that rabbit hole. Once the subscription is signed up for, and you start reading that material, then that individual will probably feel, when it's comfortable, when they feel comfortable enough to start buying materials and in small quantities and just kind of getting acclimated to the different suppliers that are available.
Okay. And I think too, like you said, like when you were starting out, there wasn't that much information, but now we have access to so much. So I think that's a great start with the magazines, especially because they are free. So even if you're not sure about it, you can get the magazine, and then that will either fuel your decision of, yes, I want to stay on this course, or maybe this isn't for me, it's a bit much, or what have you. So I think that's really good. Do you have any other advice that you would give to someone, especially like a young kid in the Black community that is looking to do this?
I would definitely say for the individual to own their creativity. Don't stifle it. Don't feel like you have to fit in. Break the mold. It's meant to be broken, because that's how new and innovative things actually come into fruition, is by people not being afraid, of who they are as an individual, and infusing their creativity in whatever it is that they're doing, because people connect to an individual first before they connect to a brand. So it's fine to look at the logos, see what the color schemes, and think about those things. But the main thing is to continue to be who you are, because you're going to have an organic following that connects with you as an individual, and not being afraid to share the successes as well as the not so pleasant things. We still want to use discretion, but having that balance and letting people know that it is okay for you to show, hey, this was a flop. I just wanted to show you it's a flop. So, and because then people are like, well, this person is authentic. So then when you come out with your product and you're charging $250 for it, they're like, man, and you pre-order, you have those pre-sales and you hype it up. They're like, man, I love this person as an individual. I connect with them. Let me get my debit card and Apple Pay and get my pre-order fragrance, room spray, whatever. So that would be the main thing for me, is to just encourage that individual to be who you are. Don't feel like you have to be anybody else. Don't feel like you have to dim your light because you feel like you stand out. Stand out, stand up, and stand strong. Yell if you have to, because you're going to have an audience that wants to hear and see and support. So
yes, I am all for that. I think people also need to really shine their light and be themselves. So I love that. And that also got me thinking too, with creativity, and you running your own business. And then the year that we had was insane. And I know in Texas, you guys went through another hard time with the electricity and the weather and all that stuff. So with all these things going on, how do you still stay creative and to come up with different scents and be inspired and stuff like that amongst all the 100 things that you have to do?
Mm-hmm. I had to purposely do this. I schedule time to myself, and I'm so thankful for my mom, who hopefully she's still on here, who really is instrumental in helping me to have that, even if it's 10 minutes or an hour. I'm like, hey, Mom, I'm going here or going there. And she knows what that means because she knows me. Having that time to myself just to regroup, or even just to meditate for a bit and to think or not think. The inspiration may come after I have just sat quietly and scheduled that self-care, because mental health is definitely a form of self-care for me. So that's basically how I get inspiration. I just try to get still. Most of the time it's with water. So it's either in the tub or in the shower. And I'm like, oh, I get an inspirational, what I call an inspirational download at that particular time. And I have to jot it down. And then it just starts connecting to other things that I'm doing. But I continuously read. I continuously research. I don't want to ever think that I have arrived, because if that happens, then that means that I've plateaued. So I like to continuously enrich my mind by immersing myself in the field that I'm in, because that's what's going to give me those inspirations, not to copycat off of any other brand, but just to get some insight and see, okay, I can put was really nice content. I know how I want to put my spin on it. But the only way I'd be able to do that is spending time with myself, whether it's being quiet or in prayer or you know, just kind of getting still, because there are so many things that go on in a day, and add any type of dynamic. If you're a parent, if you have a full-time job, and then you're trying to also nurture your business or your baby on the side, it's important to at least have some small moments to yourself just to regroup. And I think that's really what has helped me to stay creative. My mother is highly creative as well, so I'd like to say that a lot of that has been transferred through DNA from the womb. But definitely having that self-care and having that quiet time. No music, no anything, like even here it's really quiet. Just having that quiet time to think, or like I said, or to not think.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. That's actually something I'm starting to learn. Oh, you saw the comment?
You put my business out there, Mama? Yes, I do. I take extremely long backs.
But it's what works for you, right?
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with that. That's something I'm learning. So I need to find what it is my thing that I can do, where I quiet everything out so that I'm not burnt out and my creativity is kind of on a standstill because I'm tired.
Right.
So yeah, no, that was great. Thank you so much. I also want you to let everybody know where they can purchase your fragrances and the products that you do sell, and how they can keep up with you, and maybe if they're looking for an internship, how they can connect with you for that as well.
Absolutely. And would I be able to put it in the comments as well? Just so, would you be able to pin the comment if I typed it into the comments?
I don't really know how to pin a comment.
Well, I'll just type it, and then it'll.
But I'm gonna make a post too. So
Okay.
I'm gonna put these things in the post as well.
Okay.
I need to learn how to do all this stuff with IG Live.
When you find out, send me a DM and let me know too.
I'm gonna let you know.
Okay. But no, I can be found as far as product purchasing on pinkmahogany.etsy. That's ETSY.com. And my email address is Parfumista. It's PARFUMISTA at pinkmahogany.com with the extra H. Otherwise, it will not be delivered to me.
Perfect. I want to thank you so much because you gave so much information. I love talking to you. I'm probably going to review this whole thing after and take some notes. There was so much there. And I just thank you for starting your business, doing what you're doing, and also you're going to be opening up the doors for other people as well, where most of us grow up not knowing that these opportunities actually exist.
Right.
So I want to thank you so much for that. It was amazing.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I really did appreciate this. And I believe that it's about helping others, reaching back, not saying, okay, well, bye y'all, and then just going on, reaching back and helping other people, because at some point we all needed to be helped. And I think it's important for us not to get so selfish, thinking even if we're in the same field that, okay, now they're competition. No, that's why it's important to keep that individuality. So thank you so much for allowing me to share my story and insight that I've learned along the way.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone that came in, that were putting in comments. Thank you to Chavalia's mom, who gave us all the confirmations that we needed. Thank you so much. It was all the tea. She spilled it all. Thank you so much once again. I really enjoyed this so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.